United 3, Bodø Glimt 2. This performance was what I've been waiting for the past 10 years. In all my time of watching United, maybe bar the Van Gaal era, there was never one point of time where I knew that we were playing a sustained brand of football that we could sustain to win significant trophies, to win a championship, to play the way that we were meant to play. Off the back of these first two games, the idea is clear. What Amorim said has been done. What did he say in his first press conference? He said, we are not sure whether we can deliver exactly what we want, but the idea will be there. And what have we seen in these last two games? The idea is clearly visible. We know that we're trying to play one way, and that is the Amorim way. And that involves possession, that involves trigger pressing, that involves the wingbacks overlapping and cutting it in deep or crossing it into the box, hoping for a threat in the box. And we tap it in through the inside forwards of the striker or the late arriving player. And that was clearly visible multiple times throughout this game. Whether that was Malacia's cross, whether that was Garnacho's cross, whether that was Antony's cross, the right-sided players were cutting the ball back or crossing into the box for the late arriving player. Whether that was Mount, whether that was Bruno. And the threat was always constant. And this game showed me that there is so much more to go off, that we have even more levels to go up, because this is definitely by far our best performance of the season. I know people are going to look at the scoreline, and if you did not watch the game, you might say that this was a very close match, that we were lucky to get the win, especially since we were losing at one point. But if you watch the game, you know that honestly, this should have been like a 3-0 game. This should have been a clean win and we move on to the next one. Why we didn't get that was because of defensive frailties. It's a structural error which will arise when we're trying to fit in a new system, because the players are too focused on trying to get everything right, trying to be picture perfect. But the problem is, when you're trying to lay off the ball perfectly, keep your positions, and then at the same time try to track everything else, your mind just goes everywhere. Instead of taking the game very simply, they overcomplicated it too much. And that is why we ultimately conceded 2 goals. But ultimately, this is what everybody was talking about when we brought in Amorim. That the players don't have to necessarily be good enough, but the system will get you the goals. And if we look at the game, the first thing that I saw was the lineup. And if we look at the lineup that Amorim fielded today, we'll see one thing, that there were many changes, that there were 6 changes. And yet, despite the 6 changes, we played better than we did against Ipswich. And you might argue that most of these 6 players wouldn't even start in our first team. So this shows you that Amorim has an identity, that he's trying to progress, and that we will see much more improvement in the months coming forward. Now, having said all this, I don't think that the Everton game is a guaranteed win anymore, because the players are still adjusting, and you can clearly see that. Yes, we played amazing, but the players are still adjusting, and against even better opposition. Like, if we are going to play Everton, we're going to play Arsenal after this, then Forest, then Man City, and Victoria Pilsen. None of them are givens. And against Arsenal and Man City, we would be lucky to escape with a draw. Yes, that does not mean that Amorim's system is not working, that he is not trying to implement a style of play, that it's not working. It will work, but it will take time. I would say sometime around the time when we go to White Hart Lane in February, that is when we will actually see Amorim ball in full effect. I think till then, we will have frailties, we will see mistakes, and till then, we will see we might struggle in some games. Like, towards the end of the game, we were coasting, yes, but at the end of the game, in the last 5 or 10 minutes, we were scrambling a little bit, though we had full control of the game for most parts of the game. And this is something Amorim will work on, but we need to give them time. And let me point out the wing backs, by the way, because they are the most important part of an Amorim system. So our wing backs today, both Malacia and Antony haven't played for a while. Malacia almost in 570 days. So we have to give him that leeway. I know on the first goal, you might think he should have tracked his man and he should have followed him back. But how could he expect explosiveness when he hasn't played for nearly 570 days? And that is why the second goal, I know, is very weak. But I actually blame that on Lisandro Martinez, because he was too far up the pitch and he couldn't get back in time. And that's why Malacia had to track his man back. And ultimately, when a player is not fit, it's very visible. And that is why he was hooked at halftime. But the thing is, Malacia will improve with fitness. You can still see that Malacia knows what to do in that wing back spot. He was trying to cut back. He was trying to cut back the ball on the byline. He was trying to cross when needed. And that is what we need. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how we do it. As long as the players try to play according to how the system works, we will see better football. Let's take Mason Mount and Anthony. Most of the fan base are not fans of these two players. But they were essential in most of our goals. If you take Højlund's second goal, that is United's third goal, Mason Mount's flick was just stupid. That set up the dummy for Ugarte to then lay it off to Højlund, and then Højlund gets a tap in. These kind of plays don't just happen, It's not something that the players just know. This is off the training ground. This is something Amorim has trained these players to do. This is what gives me hope. We saw training ground finishes. The first goal that we scored against Ipswich was a training ground finish. The first Højlund goal, where Mazraoui crossed it into him, also another training ground goal. And the fact that we are scoring finally, after years of waiting for this, we're scoring training ground goals. Things that we have been working on. And we can see what we've been working on because it's so evident in how we play. But unfortunately, there is one criticism, and that is with the two players who finished as our inside forwards. Garnacho and Rashford, unfortunately, they do not have a role in this team. Everybody else, I've seen how they could fit into this system if used right, if used in different ways, or if given time. But two players I do not see any use for, unfortunately, are Garnacho and Rashford. So let's talk about Rashford first of all. The first game that we played, inside 2 minutes, Rashford scores. Now people think, oh, it's going to be the change of Rashford. Rashford's going to come back to what he was before. And we give him a chance, but he ghosts the entire game and he goes missing. Now we think, okay, second time, he's on the bench. Maybe he's an impact sub. He comes on in the inside forward role. So what is the inside forward meant to do? Meant to create, meant to dictate play. Rashford can't do that either. So now you think about it. The only role that you can see for Rashford in this entire team is on the bench, but as an impact 9. You come on in the 70th to 75th minute as the number 9, and that is the only role I see for Rashford. Garnacho, on the other hand, I don't see any role for him at all. Not even as an impact sub. Because why? He is the weakness that we see in that entire team. If Mount was playing where Garnacho was playing, I think we would have done much better in the places where Garnacho missed, in the places where Garnacho could have progressed the ball a bit more. Because guess what? As bad as Mount is, he does look for a man. And he does try to look to link up with somebody. But what does Garnacho offer? So number one, he does not have explosive pace. So it's not like we can abuse that pace on the left-hand side. Second thing is, he's not a good carrier of the ball necessarily. And he's not good at crossing. And the fourth thing is, he does not think. And that is my main issue actually with Garnacho. That he does not think when he gets the ball. You know why I say this? Because think about every time that he got the ball on the left-hand side on the byline, he just crosses it. He does not look to see, is there a better option for me? Maybe I could take a touch and maybe I could get my shot off. Maybe I could take a touch and then cross it. Maybe I can just dribble with the ball. No. And I understand this is a training ground tactic. Amorim must have told him, anytime you get on the byline, try to cross. But that does not mean every single time you get on the byline, you cross. That means when you have an option in the box, then you cross. Otherwise, it's common sense that you take a touch, you look around and see what you can do next. But Garnacho does not think, because I can clearly see that this is an instruction and he followed it to the T. But sometimes you need to think outside the box. That does not mean that you just cross every single time. You look around and see what you can do. But unfortunately, Garnacho did disappoint. But many other players, Mount was pretty notable in his pressing. And I think we can use him. There is a role for Mount. But maybe not in Premier League games, maybe in Europa League games, or maybe in a Carabao Cup game. But we can definitely use Mount as a squad option. Anthony at right wing back. Now, I've been saying Anthony as a left wing back, but he was playing right wing back this time. And you see how Anthony can bring some control when he has a system in place. And trust me, Anthony has not played for a while. That is why he played to this level. If you give him some time, he will perform to a reasonable level, and then you'll see right wing back spot, could be Anthony's to have. And let's be honest, we don't care about who is performing. We only care that the players are performing, right? I'll have to point out Højlund as well today. Højlund, like I said initially, his trigger pressing was amazing and his first finish was class. So yes, if he keeps going this way, then he could definitely have a role in this Amorim system. But we need to see all these players performing consistently. Whether that's Mount, whether that's Anthony, whether that's Højlund, whether that's Ugarte, we have to see this regularly. Otherwise, unfortunately, one of you is getting axed. And yes, we still have to work on final phase play, because I think from all the work that Erik ten Hag has done in the last 2 years, we are so bad in final phase play that I think we have never been coached that in the first place. So it will take time to build up to that, but we're improving much more. Because every single time that we are creating a chance now, it's actually looking dangerous. It's not like in the past where it's a half-hearted chance. It's actually decent chances. If you see all the goals that we're scoring, they are training ground goals. And this is what you want to see. This is how you know, is the system working or not. If you see many training ground goals, simple goals, that means the system is working. And I would say good start to Amorim's tenure so far. Now, all we have to do is comeback wins against Everton, against Arsenal, against Nottingham Forest, against Pilsen and Man City. And then, if we can do all them, if we can win all these games, I'm just saying it's a theory, but if we can win all of them, then Amorim really takes off. Why? Because in these games, we're not going to see perfect football, because we're still adjusting to Amorim's style. But I don't care whether it's a 3-0 win. I don't care whether it's a 1-0 win. I don't care how we get it, but we need results at the moment. One thing I can be confident with is that Amorim is going to stick to what he wants. He's not going to do what you want. He's not going to do what the media wants. He's going to do his way, and that is the only way. And that's what we've been wanting ever since 2013. So we might have finally got our man, but it's too early to say still. We still need to see sustained patterns of play, sustained periods of success like this. And then we can see that we might be moving in the right direction. So that is United 3, Bodø Glimt 2. On to Everton in the weekend, and let's hope we play just like this and another performance to remember. So see you all in the next one.